you alluded to it earlier. The statistics show that 80, actually 90% of college educated women initiate these divorces. So I think the initial hit for a lot of guys who they
Mhm.
might have not really been happy in the marriage either, but they weren't pushed to the point of like, this is too much, I'm going to leave. I think marriage is built for men in a lot of ways to kind of be mediocre, complacent. And that is why I think women do initiate a lot of these things. Talk a little bit about that, like just that feeling of rejection and ego that guys go through, even if they didn't like, love, want this person, how that affects men and why that is and how we can work through that.
Oh man, I love this. I was writing about this morning, this part of the book that I'm writing. And I was writing about my own insecurity in general. So I was writing about my insecurity based on being for me, it really gets triggered by smart people. I'm pretty, as an average student, I'm street smart, I'm culturally smart, I'm emotionally smart, but my IQ probably isn't off the charts. And I actually hang out with a lot of people who are smart in that way. And it can really trigger me. There's a feeling of rejection that comes from not being part of any group or not feeling like you have what it takes in any way. And all of us get triggered in different ways, but it's going to naturally happen with people that uh, there's some kind of romantic or erotic experience that you want some affirmation in life, period. If I walk outside of my apartment in New York City right now and walk down the street, my ego is big enough that I want women to notice me. And if I want a specific one to notice me and she doesn't, and somehow, I'm naturally going to feel rejection. So now imagine, right? You got this person that you don't even really care that much about. You're maybe just partners in the house and your roommates, but still their impression of you is still so strong. And that just speaks to me of the reality that we're so desperately not wanting to be rejected, period, that when we're rejected in that way, it can rock us because it's probably like, 10 to 100 times what a normal rejection is on a regular basis, maybe thousands of times because you're just with this person all the time. So I think this kind of jumps into what I was talking about online last week, which was your penis. This thing that you think about all the time if you're a guy. And as you get older, you have to change the way you even think about it because it's doing different things than it did early. And it's so connected to your heart. And rejection is this huge fear when you're attaching here, and there. And if you get rejected in that way, it's really hard to be back out there because it's now in your head that I can be really wounded. And some men don't actually have a lot of that in their life that they're aware of. And that's the thing I think is important is, are you aware of how desperate you are to not be rejected? Because most of us aren't aware of it. We're not thinking about how much that's cycling through our minds on a daily basis, that I don't want to be rejected and I will do almost anything to find worth and to find stability and to find some way of keeping myself buoyed in life. And I think the cool thing for divorce folks is that they'll have to come to that place of saying, wow, I have to really acknowledge how heavy rejection is for me and that it's actually a part of my life all the time. And if I don't get a grip on it, and when I say get a grip on it, I mean that it goes away, but that I know it's there and I can talk to it.
Yeah, it is. You can
Communication
get,
with that
like
rejection.
everything in a relationship, you would take it for granted. You might be getting these micro rejections. Oh, I don't want to have sex tonight. But like the divorce, when those papers are signed, when you have to tell people, your friends, what happened, you feel exposed. I'm sure it's evolutionary wired into our brains that like we're going to be ostracized. But yeah, it is. It rocks your world in a way that, like you said, you really haven't. It's probably happened maybe when you're in high school or your 20s, and it always stings. But this is like the culmination. This is the one that can just blow people out of the water. And then you hear again like, oh, it's never really about you. It's about the other person. It's never like you can't take that on. but there's still that disconnect in our minds of like, well, why
Mhm.
didn't they choose me, or what is wrong with me? What do you tell people to kind of like empathize with the fact that like, yeah, I know this is what people are saying, but what you're feeling right now, how do you hold on to that?
Yeah. Oh man, you're hitting on something, because if I think back to all of my friends and clients that have been through this, through divorce, embarrassment is so loud. That the exposure that I made this big mistake and I failed. uh, this is not my primary therapeutic intervention, but I'll give you this one. At nearing 45, people just don't give a shit. They don't care that much about your life. They're worried about themselves. So your focus and attention that is on this failure is actually, people aren't registering it that loud. So get on with the just being honest about a screw up and that you need to transition. You're just in a transition, and it's a really hard one, And if you have kids and money and all of the things that have to get split up and played with, it's really complicated. But it's happening all the time. You're not that special. You're really not. Now, and when we can actually take that level of intensity down by reality testing, then we can start fidgeting with the gadgetry a bit, figuring out ourselves a little bit more. But yeah, I will have to push them sometimes to just go, bro, like
Right.
it's not that big of a deal. It is, but it's not, especially in the embarrassment part. People aren't thinking about you that much. So in the way we are constituted now, I think, even if we think about social media, right? We're both on it. People want vulnerability. They want honesty. They're not looking for you to fake and be phony. And so if you are constantly worried about embarrassment, you're actually missing this key component to relationship that everybody's looking for, which is like, yeah, I screwed up and I don't even know how to deal with
Mhm.
it. And I
Is that
would like to
something?
talk to
So
you.
I'm sure you do have a lot of guys that they are getting back out there. They might have been crushed from a divorce. They might have cheated. They might have been cheated on. And I think that is a problem you see a lot in dating where a lot of people go one way or the other. And a lot of times it's dumping about their ex. Somehow it's always the ex's fault. Any guidelines or tips, even like scripts that you would advise somebody, just kind of like a tight thing that they can say where they can own it confidently
Yeah.
and be vulnerable?
It's my one primary thing I tell anyone that's in a relationship, or if I get a couple in couples therapy and we start getting these like, who's right, who's wrong. And right away I go, if you remember anything, remember this. We are attracted to and attractive to people of equal dysfunction and equal health. So somebody that's attracted to you is not too much beyond you in health or dysfunction, and not too below you in health and dysfunction. And those you are attracted to are not too far beyond you or below you in dysfunction and health. It works both ways. So the beauty of a relationship is if you're working together, you work that way. If one starts to work on themselves and the other gets left behind, okay, well, probably this person might blame this person. Um, but usually there's this mutual dysfunctional thing that's happening. So if you can't own that, then you're actually in a position in which you just want to stay stuck. And that stuckness, someone needs to call you out. And if no one's calling you out, if you don't have friends that'll call you out, then it's a sign that actually your friendships are also in this dysfunctional place.